About a week or so ago, we were introduced to The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening as coming to the Nintendo Switch sometime in 2019. And this, of course, is a remake of the classic Game Boy game that was sort of lost to the sands of time. So as a fan of the original game, I was definitely very happy to see this game reintroduced into the modern era. But of course, there was some debate on the graphical style of the game. Some people felt like it just wasn't good enough for a home console version of the game. Now, we did a video talking about the graphical style of the game, and I went and I got some of your guys' opinions as well. And I kind of want to do this again, especially with Pokemon Sword and Shield, because this is the first time a mainline Pokemon game has been on a home console. And where there was some sort of debate going on about Link's Awakening's graphical style, mostly done by a vocal minority, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield's graphical style in sort of a negative way. So in this video, I want to explore my thoughts on the graphical style of the game to see if I feel like it's disappointing. But more so, I want to focus more on the community aspect of this as well. I ran a poll over on the Facebook fan page, so make sure you guys go like that page if you haven't yet to see what you guys felt. And I want to go over some of your comments in this video as well to get your guys' opinion. So what is up with Pokemon Sword and Shield's graphical style? Is it disappointing? That's what we're going to figure out in this video. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield and the graphical style of the game.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! Now, as you guys may or may not be aware, I'm not the most hardcore Pokemon fan in the world. Obviously, I grew up on the series. Like I said in my previous Pokemon video, I used to go over to my buddy's house every day before school in 8th grade, and we would watch the Pokemon cartoon and play Pokemon Red and Blue because it was sort of a lifestyle for us. We really enjoyed playing that game, and obviously it was one of the hottest things in middle school. But as time has gone on, I've kind of fallen out of love with the Pokemon series. The last mainline game I played was Pokemon Black on the DS, and I've checked out other games. I have played them, but I haven't really sat down and beat them or spent a majority of time with them. It wasn't really until Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu came out that I was sort of reintroduced to the series, and I liked that game. I thought it was pretty fun, a bit simplistic, but I liked what they were doing with that game, and I thought it sort of had potential as an offshoot game. But obviously, all eyes were on Pokemon Generation 8. What was going to be brought to the table, as this game was going to be a mainline Pokemon game for home consoles. And what we saw with Pokemon Sword and Shield was definitely very interesting. Now, me personally, I enjoyed the graphical style that we saw. I felt like the game felt a bit more open. Obviously, there was a lot more high-resolution textures. You saw things like different landscapes, like a city, a snowy area, a vegetated field, a underground area, and there was lots of graphical intricacies that we saw in high-resolution textures and polygons that really made it feel like a progression of the series. It made it feel like a progression of the Pokemon franchise. Obviously, Pokemon games haven't really changed all that much over time in terms of graphics. Obviously, when you jump from one system to another, you're going to see a boost in graphics. Things like the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, there was obviously a boost in graphics there. And then, of course, from the Game Boy Advance to the DS and the DS to the 3DS, you always see improvements. But I feel like with Pokemon Sword and Shield, there's actually some sort of substantial improvements over this. Now, one thing that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about are the character models of the Pokemon themselves. And when you compare them side by side to Pokemon Let's Go, you can definitely see that there's different shaders used. It looks like they are recycling some of the character models from Pokemon Let's Go, but they obviously look a bit different. They look a bit better in my opinion. It's almost like a cartoon to an anime. There's a different graphical style that they're using with this, and I think it really sort of showcases the progression of this series. And obviously, this is the first footage we've seen from this game, so there is time for the gameplay. And one big thing that I'm sort of taking away from this is the unveiling footage of the game. Obviously, things can change. This game probably isn't coming out until November of 2019, and Nintendo and Game Freak seem to work on the gameplay of a game first and then work on the graphics. Nintendo themselves have actually said that that's what they do when they're creating their games. So I feel like the graphical style can improve. Some people felt like the environments looked a bit lifeless, and I could definitely see that. It didn't seem like there was a lot of life teeming in the areas that you were going into, but I feel like that will be addressed and looked at in the future as developments go along with this game. We don't know how far along this build was. We, of course, assume that this is the latest build of the game, but this could be a build from 6 months ago or something like that. You never quite know with game companies when it comes to the graphical style of the games. But overall, I like it. I think it looks very clean. I think it looks refined, and I think it's a proper jump from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch. I feel like there's enough added into it that make it really sort of stand out, especially when you look at something like 3DS footage and then compare it to Nintendo Switch footage. It's really night and day. But I wanted to know what you guys felt about this, because I feel like the community aspect is definitely very important when it comes to Pokemon, especially considering how many hardcore Pokemon fans are out there. So like I said, we ran a poll over on the RGT85 Facebook fan page to see what you thought of the graphical style. Now, I'm always assuming that these polls are going to be somewhat favored in Nintendo's favor, but I was actually surprised to see how in favor of the graphical style most people were. 87% of the people that entered the poll thought that the new Pokemon looks good, 13% thought that the new Pokemon looks bad, and that was based out of 675 votes. So it looks like a majority of people that like the Facebook fan page definitely liked what they saw from this upcoming Pokemon game. So like I said, I do want to highlight some comments and then talk about these comments in the video, because I feel like fan information and fan feedback on the Pokemon games are just as important as whatever I have to say about the games. So the first comment I want to go over comes to us from Jason. Jason says, everything looks great, but having no Pokemon running around everywhere makes the new Pokemon games world look very dead and empty. Now that's obviously something that was introduced in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Whenever you were on the overworld map and walking around, you actually saw the Pokemon walking around. And from what we've seen so far with Pokemon Sword and Shield, it seems like that has been replaced, and now they're going back to the more traditional style of where it was just random encounters. You would just walk around and there would be an invisible Pokemon that pops up, and then you battle that Pokemon. And that's actually pretty interesting to me, because I felt like that was one thing that no matter if you liked Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee or whether you didn't like that game, I think that Pokemon fans were pretty much in unison saying that we like this ability to see the Pokemon on the overworld map, so that way we can avoid certain Pokemon and avoid certain battles. It's something that has really been sort of replaced in RPG games. RPG games, of course, used to be sort of based on the invisible encounters. You would just walk around and get in a random battle. But as time has gone on, it seems like more and more mainline RPG games have replaced that by actually having the enemies on the screen, so that way you could see when a battle is going to occur. So I definitely agree with Jason here. I think that there should be Pokemon on the overworld map, because it makes things look more alive, and it's sort of strategic in the same sort of effect, because that way you can know what sort of Pokemon you're going to be battling against instead of just going into a battle blind. Next up, we have Ivo saying, not bad, but after a decade of playing the Pokemon games, I was expecting a sort of Zelda Breath of the Wild type of graphics / open world type of game. Was also hoping for even a sort of PSU / MMO type game. Not the same style of games that I played back from the 90s. And once again, that's another interesting point. From what we've seen so far, obviously, we didn't learn too much about the gameplay. This seemed to be more just focused on the graphics and the world and the Galar region that you're going to be in. There could be some gameplay elements that are like an MMO that are introduced in the Pokemon Sword and Shield, but from what we've seen so far, it does look like a very traditional and safe Pokemon game. Whereas when you have games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which really went in a whole different direction for the Zelda series, and Super Mario Odyssey, which was a really big jump into the 3D Mario universe, and it really sort of made it different than other previous 3D Mario games. I think a lot of people were sort of expecting that sort of advancement with Pokemon Sword and Shield on the Nintendo Switch, but obviously from what we saw, we didn't see that sort of thing. So I feel like that's a valid comment, and I feel that's something that is worth talking about. Following up with that, Keith says, not that it looks bad, but it looks barely like a step above Sun and Moon. First proper game on a home console, had people expecting a lot, and it feels like they just failed to even come close to it, especially comparative to the huge jumps in Zelda and Mario. And like I just said, that's sort of a reoccurring theme that I'm seeing in the comments of this. I don't think people are necessarily saying that the game looks bad. I think they just expected something a bit more. Now, someone like me, who's not a hardcore Pokemon fan, I can enjoy this graphical style because it's not a series that I have played year after year after year. But as someone who has played games like Sun and Moon on the 3DS and all of the recent entries in the series, it might not seem like a big enough jump. Now, I think when you put them up side by side, you could definitely see that Pokemon Sword and Shield does look a lot better than Sun and Moon. Obviously, it's going to be on an HD screen. You don't have to worry about the small resolution of the 3DS, but still, like, that's a valid complaint. It seems like Game Freak took it very safe with this game, and I think that's one of the main complaints that a lot of people are having with this game, is just how safe it feels within the Pokemon universe, where they could have really sort of expanded it. Now, like I said, we still don't know if there will be some sort of big expansion, because obviously the gameplay wasn't really talked about all that much in the 6.5 minutes, not 7 minutes, Game Freak, you lied to me! In the 6.5 minutes that we saw of Pokemon Sword and Shield. There's obviously a lot of mystery still within the game, of course, in the story mode, in different areas that you'll go into, and how the battle system will work. Most people are assuming it will be a traditional battle system, but what will the online features be like? Will they be simplified, where it's just things like trading and battling, or will there be some MMO elements? We don't know, but I guess just from a graphical style, some people expected that sort of big leap with this game. Next up, we have Patrick saying, after 7 gens and many side games, I can say the graphics themselves look like an updated 3DS model, to me anyways. While it does look better than all the others, I do not think it's advanced enough for a console. We'll let Let's Go slide because it was a side game. Also, RGT, the Pokeball used is not for the main game, it is only for Let's Go and Pokemon Go. I'm sure they will be used next year in Gen 2's Let's Go. And that's actually a very interesting fact, because you would assume that with the Pokeball that they introduced with Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, you would be able to do something with that in this game. And I guess you can't really do that in terms of capturing Pokemon. Could there be some sort of side game or mini game within Pokemon Sword and Shield that allows you to use the Pokemon Go ball? Because really, if it's not, it's just sort of sitting there. You really only use it for one specific game, and obviously the control scheme of the Pokemon ball is very limited in what you can do, so it's not like you can use it in other games. So I'll definitely be very interested to see if Game Freak does anything with the Pokeball in Pokemon Sword and Shield, because if they don't, it sort of feels like a missed opportunity, because obviously people that bought Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are going to be buying this next game in the series. These are the die-hard fans of the series. So you would want to be able to give them some sort of satisfaction in purchasing that Pokeball and actually being able to use it for something. And the final comment comes to us from Tim. Tim says, "Psst, tomorrow is legitimately my birthday, so if you're putting people in videos, I mean, I can't think of a better reason." Well, I like to be a man of the people, so Tim, you have made the video, but really, going over the comments that we've seen, and I suggest you guys go like the Facebook fan page, that way you can interact with other people on the posts and stuff and call me an idiot like some people like to do. Why would you like a Facebook fan page and then not like the person and not like what they upload? I don't know, it just seems really strange to me, but there's obviously a lot of community discussion on here. There's a lot of people responding to different comments on here, and that's sort of what I want to do with this series of videos. It's not so much my opinion on the things, but I want your guys' opinion as well, so that way I can talk about and sort of see if I can see where you're coming from, because I think that's a very valuable thing. At the end of the day, I'm just one person with one sort of mindset and one sort of idea and one sort of opinion, whereas you guys obviously have a lot of varied opinions, and I think it makes for a more interesting video. So, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Are the graphics disappointing? It looks like a majority of people don't think they're necessarily bad, but they expected a bit more, and by my sort of statistics, that means it's kind of a disappointment to some people, and I think that's fair. But me personally, I'm looking forward to the game. All the people shaming people on Twitter, oh, you're an adult who likes a Pokemon game. You ever notice that those are the same people playing like Kingdom Hearts 3? Like, word, you're playing in Frozen's universe, let it go. Let it go. Don't shame people because they like to play certain games. Like, it's video games at the end of the day. It's a very childish medium, like, let's be honest here. But anyways, I just wanted your guys' opinion on Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts on it as well. But obviously the comment section on this video is going to be very frantic. There's going to be a lot of different opinions, so let me know in the comment section down below how you personally feel about Pokemon Sword and Shield on the Nintendo Switch from what we've seen so far. Obviously, we're going to learn more about the game in the future, but for now, we only have 6.5 2.5 minutes of footage to sort of look over, analyze, and take away our opinions from that. And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. Please be sure to like the Facebook fan page, like I said, and be sure to follow me on Twitter as well. I'm very close to 20,000 followers on Twitter, and that is really cool. We are still doing a giveaway, but YouTube has sort of changed up how you do things, so I'm gonna have to end it soon, and I can't really promote it on this video anymore, but it is the pinned tweet on my Twitter account, so even if you don't have a Twitter account, you can look at Twitter and see my pinned tweet and then enter that contest to win up to $170 in eShop gift cards. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.